Vandaag bij Antwoorden met Bayless Conley.
You don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to be a person of influence, friend. You may not have wealth. You may not have intelligence. You might just have a lifetime full of baggage, but you're still loved. God loves you. For God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever.
Welkom bij Antwoorden met Bayless Conley. Het leven kan soms een uitdaging zijn. Maar of het nu gaat om financiën, relaties, gezondheid of de vraag naar je doel in je leven, één ding is zeker. God ziet je. Hij houdt van je. En wat er ook aan de hand is, Hij heeft de antwoorden op je vragen.
Hello, friend. Glad to have you with us. And I just want to encourage you right now, if you got a seatbelt near you, get it fastened, because we're going to get into a message that I'm not bringing, but actually our oldest son, Harrison, he's the lead pastor of our church. He's bringing the message today. And it is simple, and yet it is powerful. It's going to begin with what's been referred to as the most well-loved, most well-known verse in the Bible. And I'll tell you, some of the stuff that he brings out of this, it is so encouraging and so strengthening. So get ready. We're going to get into that message right now.
I want to speak to you from the greatest verse in all the Bible. John 3:16. For God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. There is no other verse in all the Bible that says so much to so many in so few words. It is literally a volume in a verse. It is the encapsulated summation of our theology, and it's the greatest love story that's ever been told. These words, this verse, is literally the anthem of redemption. And what I'd like to do this morning is dive a little deeper into this greatest verse in the Bible. And I want to talk to you about the four movements of redemption. I want to talk about why the gospel matters. So here's movement number one. Redemption has a motive. Redemption has a motive. For God so loved. For God so loved. Love is the motive of redemption. And the love of God is a wonderful thing. There is nothing like it in all the world. There is nothing that can be compared to it, because this love finds its source in God Himself. And please understand that God does not need outward motivation to express and or exercise His love. No, He loves because love is a part of His nature and His character. 1 John chapter 4 says, God is love. And His love is a perfect love. And it's an unchanging love. The love of God has no beginning and it'll have no end. And God's love cannot change because God cannot change. His love cannot change for the better because God in His nature is already the totality and perfect embodiment of excellence. And His love cannot change for the worse because there is nothing in God to harm Himself or to go contrary to His character. And as we consider this, we must echo with the writer of Hebrews and say His love is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And friend, that's good news. The love of God is stronger than sin. It's deeper than sorrow. It's better than life, and it is mightier than death. So let me ask you this morning, do you know the love of God? Have you experienced the love of God? And as you begin to formulate a response to that question, let me remind you that God does not love us because we're valuable, but rather we are valuable because God loves us. God's love does not exist on account of our character, but rather it exists on account of His character. Can I say this? God doesn't love us because Jesus died for us, but rather Jesus died for us because God loves us. Are you seeing this pattern here? God is the great initiator. It begins with Him, and He doesn't need us or any other created thing to motivate Him to love or to redeem. He is motivated simply on the basis of Himself. We don't have to persuade Him to love. We don't have to entice Him or incentivize Him to love. No, He is moved all by Himself. In the Old Testament, David, the psalmist, he picks up on this. He writes in Psalm 18 and verse 19, speaking of God, he says, He delivered me because He delighted in me. I love this. He delivered me because he delighted in me. Notice all the onus is on God. He didn't deliver me because I delighted in him, not because I deserved to be delivered. No, he delivered me because he delighted in me. Our actions do not motivate God to love. He's moved to action because of his own love. He's moved all by himself, by his nature, and by his character. So once again, we echo 1 John 4 and say, God is love, and we love him because he first loved us. Because of sin, we found ourselves on the trash heap of life. We were dead in our sins and in our trespasses. But God, with great love with which he has loved us, even when we were dead in our sins and in our trespasses, has made us alive together in Christ Jesus. And many of us can look at our lives and we go, we are the testimony of his grace. But yet we're still so aware of our brokenness. Yet so many of us are still so aware of our past and so aware of the sin. And we see our sin and we see our brokenness and we go, God, why? Why do you even care? Why would you save us? And God looks at us and he says, because I made you. And because I love you. And because you are mine. In this is love. Not that we loved him, but that he loved us. And he sent his son to be the propitiation, the covering for our sins. His love is transformative. His love sees us where we are and loves us where we are. His love sees us as we are, not as we should be, but his love is so magnanimous. It is so rich in nature. It never leaves us as we are, but immediately goes to work from the inside out, molding us, shaping us, transforming us into the image of Jesus. But here's movement number 2. Redemption has a target. Has a target. For God so loved the world. The world. Love is the motive of redemption, but the world is the target. And to understand why we are the target of God's redemption, we must first have a correct understanding of who God is. Because you know what? God is not who you think he is. God is who he says he is. So we need to have a clear understanding of who he says that he is. Because the more people I speak to, the more I'm growing convinced that we need a regular reminding and reshaping in our thinking when it comes to how we view God. Now, if I were an old preacher, which I'm not, but if I were an old preacher, I might say it like this. The reason God came from nowhere is because there wasn't anywhere for him to come from. And coming from nowhere, he stood on nothing. And the reason he stood on nothing was because there was nowhere for him to stand. And standing on nothing, he reached out where there was nowhere to reach, and he caught something where there was nothing to catch. And then he took that something and he hung it on nothing and he told it to stay there. And then standing on nothing, he took the hammer of his own will and he struck against the anvil of his omnipotence, and sparks flew therefrom, and he caught them on the edges of his fingertips. He looked at them and then flung them into space, thus bedecking the heavens with stars. And nobody said a word because there wasn't anybody there to say anything. So God said to himself, that's good. Now, hear me. Everything and everyone was made by God, and there is not a thing made that does not have his fingerprints upon it. And all that God has made, we call the world. And God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. You know what that means? It means that there is not a person here this morning, there's not a person under the sound of my voice, there's no one watching live stream that can say, nobody loves me. Because God loves you. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you've done or where you're from. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. It doesn't matter your color of skin. It doesn't matter your age demographic, your current situation of life. You don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to be a person of influence. Friend, you may not have wealth. You may not have intelligence. You might just have a lifetime full of baggage, but you're still loved. God loves you. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever, I love that word. I wish it was written in all capitals in my Bible. Whosoever, I want you to capture this. If the world is the target, then you and me, the whosoevers, we're the bullseye of that target. It brings the target down to a personal and an individual level. Let me show you what I mean. I think about JP. He's a man I met on a flight from Denver to Orange County. I'd been in Denver for a couple of days preaching my heart out. I'm exhausted. I'm on a late night flight coming home. And this plane is full. I mean, like jammed full. And there's only one empty seat on the plane, and it's right next to me. And I am thanking Jesus, going, this is your reward for being your servant. This is your reward for preaching my heart out. And the stewardess is about to shut the door of the plane when a man walks onto the plane, and it takes about 3 seconds to figure out that he is drunk. And he starts zigzagging his way down the aisle, and he's swearing and stammering and making a scene. And he comes and he stands in my aisle and he spies my seat, looks at his ticket, and I realize that this man is sitting next to me. Suddenly my thank you, Lord, turned into really, Lord. And he sat down and he began to yell and make a scene. And even before we had taken off, the stewardess had to come 3 different times and warn him that they were going to kick him off of the plane. And every time he promised he was going to be good, so he'd get quiet for a few minutes, only to erupt again and make a scene. And finally, it got to a point where I just looked at him. I said, hey, look, man, I don't care whether you stay on this plane or not, but they're looking for a reason to kick you off. We got started in conversation. And he said to me, so, what do you do? I said, well, I'm a pastor. And he began to cry. And he said, you are the 3rd pastor I've sat next to on a plane this week. And I said, buddy, I think God's trying to get your attention. And for the next 2 hours, we began to talk about the love and the grace and the mercy of Jesus. He began to open up to me and say he had done all this business dealing and was able to retire at an early age. He made $250 million and had every car you could want. He had multiple homes. He had girlfriends and drugs and parties, everything he thought would make him happy. And he said to me, Harrison, I am miserable. I said, there's one thing that can fill that void, and it's Jesus. And I pray for JP regularly. But what am I saying in all this? This is what I'm saying. Nothing is random with God. Out of all the airports, out of all the flights, out of all the airlines, out of all the people sitting on this plane, God saved JP a seat right next to me. You know why? Because he's trying to reveal to JP that he was the bullseye of his love, of his affection, and of his redemption. I think about Josh and Robert, who I met just a couple of weeks ago playing golf. One afternoon, I had this hankering to go and play golf, and so I get my clubs, and I'm driving toward a particular golf course. And in order to get to this golf course, I have to drive past another golf course. And as I was driving past the one golf course, I thought to myself, I'm so glad I'm not playing there. It's going to be crowded. If I played there, it's going to take like 5.5 hours. I'm on my way to the golf course I want to go to. And I'm almost there when I feel the Holy Spirit speak to me and say, turn around, I want you to go play at the other golf course. And I'm like, I didn't even think you cared about golf. Like, really? And if you know anything about me, once I've got a plan in place, like I'm the most inflexible human being on the planet. And so I'm almost to this other golf course, and the Holy Spirit keeps nudging me, turn around, go play at the other course. And I'm arguing, going like, it's gonna take me 5.5 hours, and I don't even know if I'll finish before, the sun goes down. And finally, I just turn the car around, and I pull up and grab my clubs. I don't have much faith at this point. I walk in the pro shop. I say, hey, look, I know you guys are busy, but do you have any spare tee times? He goes, well, why don't you just join this twosome that's there on the tee right now? Oh, all right. I walk on the tee box, and immediately I know this is going to be a great round because these two guys are friends, and they are bantering back and forth and cursing at each other. And I'm like, this is my type of game. I'm going to enjoy this. And we get done with the first hole, and literally we're on the second tee box. And one of these guys, out of his bag, pulls out a bong this big. Like the biggest piece of drug paraphernalia I've ever seen. And he pulls this thing out, and he lights up. He's like, doing his thing. And he must have seen me with this bewildered look on my face. So he's like, oh, I'm sorry, did you want some? And I'm like, no, man, I'm good. And he goes to hit his shot, and I get my phone out, and I'm texting my wife. I'm going, babe, you will not believe what just happened. This guy pulled out a bong. And in like 2 holes, he's going to ask me what I do, and he's going to freak out when I tell him I'm a pastor. And sure enough, like 2 holes later, he's like, hey, so you said you live in Long Beach, but you work over in Los Al. Like, what do? I'm like, man, I'm a pastor, I lead a church. And he goes, no way. And for the next 2.5 hours, he asked me question after question. He just poured out of his heart. Questions about Jesus. Questions about, his lifestyle. He said, look, man, I'm not into this whole Christian thing. My mom, my aunt, they're always trying to push it on me. They're always praying for me. And I just stopped him. I said, I think I might be here this afternoon as a result of their prayers. And we continued to talk, and then he turned around to me, he goes, man, you're not like any pastor I ever met before. He goes, man, I really want to go to your church, but I'm scared that the moment I walk in, it'll burn down. And I said, bro, you have no idea how well you would fit in at our church. And I've been texting with these guys regularly, and I've been praying for them. And that day on the golf course, the Holy Spirit spoke to me. Holy Spirit spoke to me. And he said, this is why you need to be in tune with me. Not so you can get up and be anointed to preach a message, not so you can get up and lead a staff and lead a meeting, but for these moments. Harrison, what are you saying? I'm saying there's nothing random about God. Out of all the courses in Southern California, out of all the tea times, out of all the people, God saved a spot for me in that tea time with Josh and with Robert so that they would know that they are the bullseye of his love, of his affection, and of his redemption. And that's movement number 2. Redemption has a target. It's you and it's me. Here's movement number 3. Redemption has an action point. Redemption takes action. For God so loved the world that he gave. He gave his only begotten son. Generosity is the action point of redemption. Redemption is free, but it's not cheap. What I mean by that is the price for salvation for you and me is free. It doesn't cost us anything, but it cost God everything. He emptied the bank vaults of heaven and gave himself. Gave his only begotten son. The reason I say he gave himself is because the Son and the Father are one. And it is the steepest price that could have been paid. Yet he allowed his son to lay down his life as a sacrifice for us so that we could have his life. This, more than anything, signifies the generosity of God, because all generosity comes with a level of sacrifice. Peter picks up on this, 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 19. He says, you were not redeemed with perishable things like gold and silver, but you were bought, you were purchased with the precious blood of Jesus. And God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. When you get a chance, I want to challenge you to do something. I want to challenge you to do a Bible search on all the stuff that God gives. And as you study it, you know what you'll find out? That God is a giver, not a taker. Here's a short list for you. Here's some of the stuff that God gives us. He gives us salvation. He gives us peace. He gives us provision. He gives us healing. He gives us mercy. And that mercy, it's new and it's fresh every morning. The Bible says he gives us wisdom. He gives us rest. He gives his beloved sleep. He gives us strength. He gives us joy. He gives us life to the fullest. He gives seed to the sower. He gives the harvest. He gives a reward. He gives dreams and vision. He gave us his son. He gives us his spirit. He's given us his name, his victory. The Bible says in Ephesians 2, he's given us grace. James chapter 4 says he's given us even more grace. And that's good news. And that's just for starters. Ephesians chapter 1 says that God has given us and he's blessed us with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly realms in Christ Jesus. The point being that God is the author of redemption, so it's of no surprise that the action point of redemption is generosity, because God's a giver, not a taker. The only thing that God will take from you is sin, sorrow, burden, and pain, and he exchanges that with righteousness, joy, rest, and peace. For God so loved the world, he gave. And that's movement number 3. Generosity is the action point of redemption. But that's not all. There's still movement number 4. Movement 4 is redemption has a purpose. Redemption has a purpose. For God so loved, that's the motive. He loved the world, that's the target. That he gave his only begotten son, that's the action. That whosoever would believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. The purpose of redemption, the purpose of the gospel is so that men and women would have a different outcome. So that you and I would have a new course to run. Let me maybe explain it by saying it like this. The gospel is actually bad news before it's good news. Let me explain. You ever go to the doctor's office because you've had some symptoms, you're not sure what's going on in your body, and you go in there, they run their tests, and they come back and they give you a diagnosis, which is usually bad news. Hey, this is what's going on in your body. And when we get that bad news, we feel the weight of it. We feel the gravity of it. And we're like, oh my goodness. But then the doctor will say something to the effect of, this is the diagnosis, but I have a prescription. And if you take this prescription, if you do these steps, that diagnosis will go away. Sometimes we have to feel the weight of the bad news before we understand the gravity of the good news. And the gospel works the same way. It's bad news before it's good news. The wages of sin is death. That's bad news. But the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. That's good news. And that's the gospel. The gospel is all about the great exchange. That God took our sin and our shame, placed it upon Jesus, took his righteousness and put us on. That's the gospel. The great exchange. Moving from death into life. I was dead in my sins and in my trespasses, but I've been made alive together in Christ Jesus. It is by grace through faith I've been saved, not of works. It's the gift of God. Please make no mistake, the gospel is not about behavioral modification. The gospel is not about making bad people all of a sudden become good people. That is not the gospel. The gospel is about making dead people come back to life. The gospel is about a different outcome. We were once in the kingdom of darkness, but now we have been taken out and transposed into the kingdom of his son, the kingdom of light. The psalmist says it like this: my outcome was I was in the miry clay, but he took me out and he set my feet on a rock. Different outcome, friend. That's the gospel. It's bad news before it's good news. And you and I have experienced this redemption. You and I, those that have put our trust in Jesus, we understand the weight of the gospel. We understand the weight of the good news because we know where we were before he saved us. And now that we've experienced it, we've been tasked with taking it to a world around us. Jesus said, freely you've received my love. Now freely you get to give it.
That was Harrison, our oldest son, and what a message that was. I love it when he or anyone else talks about Jesus. My friend, the gospel is life-changing. If you've never opened your heart to the Savior, why don't you do it right now? I mean, you could be anywhere, you could be doing anything, and you're listening to me right now. I want to submit to you, that's not a coincidence. The God of the universe knows your name. He knows the circumstances of your life. He loves you. He wants to help you, and he wants to know you and you to know him personally. He wants a relationship with you. And that comes when you embrace his son, Jesus Christ. I want you to open your heart right now and pray with me. If you've never made Jesus the Lord of your life, here's your opportunity, friend. And I want to warn you ahead of time, get ready. Things are going to change, and God does it from the inside out. And I just want to pray for you in general as well. Would you pray with me? Maybe even put a hand over your heart. Just say this after me. Say, oh God. Say it out loud. Oh God. Forgive me for my sins. I ask you right now, come into my life. I believe Jesus Christ is your son. Just go ahead and say it. Jesus, thank you for loving me so much that you would die for me and take my place on the cross. I believe you were raised from the dead, and I ask you now to come into my life, be my Lord and my Savior. Now let me pray for you. Father, I pray for my friend right now that's watching, whose heart has been touched. I ask you to bless them, God. Wherever they might be struggling, I ask that you would bring help to them. Father, however you choose to bring it, I pray that you would bring help to them. I pray that they would feel lifted in their spirit, that depression would go from them, and peace would replace that depression and that heaviness. God, I ask you to open doors of blessing that no man can shut and show yourself strong in their life in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. And I just want to say, you may be a person that watches us all the time and you support us. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. We could not do what we do without partners, without people like you that actually help us take this message around the world. And if you've never shared and participated in this, I want to invite you to become a partner with us. In fact, maybe go online right now. Take a moment and do it. And give something, sow a seed toward the gospel, towards changing someone else's life. That's what this is about. I want you to be a partner with us as we take a living Jesus to a dying world.
Heb je vragen over de uitzending? Of houd je iets bezig waarvoor we kunnen bidden? Schrijf ons dan of bel ons op. Ons team is er voor je. Heb je een uitzending van Baylis Conley gemist? Vind nu alle tv-uitzendingen in onze mediatheek. Ga naar baylis-conley.nl/mediatheek.
If you don't have a copy of my daily devotional, Answers for Each Day, I'd like to encourage you to get one. It's a way to help discipline yourself to get some of the Word of God into your heart every day. And you know, the scripture says that the inward man is renewed day by day. Jesus said man doesn't live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So you can get your daily spiritual bread, at least part of it, by reading that daily devotional every morning or every night. I give some thoughts. We share a bit on different scriptures and principles from the Bible. It'll be a blessing to you.
Antwoorden voor elke dag. Bied je toegankelijke Bijbelse overdenkingen voor elke dag van het jaar. Maak er een gewoonte van om dagelijks deze Bijbelse waarheden te bestuderen samen met Baylis. Je zult zien dat je geloof en je leven van binnenuit opgebouwd wordt. Bestel het dagboek nu. De gegevens staan in beeld. En ontdek antwoorden voor elke dag.